Dante, you had a topic you wanted to cover today, didn't you?
Yeah.
You should have said no. It would have been funnier.
No.
I didn't. That's
I'm just a question I'm tired of answering. No, I'm just kidding. We were going to talk about weighted vests and rucking.
That's right, because Josiah brought that up.
Did I?
You did on a separate chit chat when we were tearing down, right?
Yeah.
I think that's when it was.
And there was a listener question too, just a very general, should I get a weighted vest?
I love the general questions.
So I mean, it's come up enough, and I don't have an overly scientific answer on the whole thing.
Okay.
But just given the timing, beginning of summer, Murph is a famous workout, CrossFit workout, where participants wear a 20-pound or a 14-pound weighted vest.
And you said weighted vest. So this is literally just a vest that you strap onto your body that has extra weights in it. Mm-hmm. And that's all there is to it.
Right.
Okay.
There are varying degrees on how well they fit, how nice they are. One's like a little more military style.
Yeah.
Some are more, just
different types of weights. They have like plates.
Yeah.
Some have like plated weights. Others are like sandbags, removable.
Yeah. You can fine tune your weights versus
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at one just the other day and thought, I should get this. And then it was $200. And I went, I should not buy this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, if you look out into your neighborhood at any given time, there's people, maybe they have a little bit of weight in their backpack or they're rucking, which is technically a little different because of the weight distribution. So point being, it comes up enough. Figure we would just talk about it a little bit. And
what is the difference?
So a weighted vest is just on both sides. Usually there's weight on the front and weight on the back, and it's strapped pretty tight to you. Mm-hmm. The rucking, or think of like a backpack, basically. It's just weight on the backside is all. And sure, a proper ruck is, you can secure it to your body better than just wearing your school backpack and throwing some dumbbells in it.
Yeah.
I mean, the distribution on that side is still a little better, but it's a different experience. Weight vest to ruck.
Having the weight close to your body makes it feel radically different than having it, just behind you and weighing backward.
Exactly. But yeah, a ruck is just a fancy way to characterize a weighted backpack.
Okay. So we've got these questions. Tell us your thoughts, Dante. Weighted vest. Yeah or nah?
It's a good tool. It's a good tool. I think just depending on the person.
Yeah.
And it depends on your expectations from it. So I think when getting this question, I'd like to understand where the person's coming from. A lot of times it's veiled in, well, I just want to lose more weight. I figured maybe I could burn more calories when I go for my walk if I have 10 or 15 or 20 pounds on me versus when I don't, or walking is too easy. I want to make it hard, so It just depends on the, intent behind the question. Conveniently, we can talk about it at some point. There was a study that just like a preprint or a pilot study that just came out that talks about weighted vests in the context of weight loss. So we can revisit that, but I just think between the Murph workout where everybody's getting the weighted vest to wear it once a year, and that may be completely irrelevant depending on what your circle is. But if you've spent any time on social media, you've invariably seen somebody talking about it.
Yeah, they show up.
Between the questions that we get, and so I think it's and because it is, a useful tool for some people. Yeah. So it's worth talking about.
So what are some good ways to use a weighted vest? I mean, you said putting on the weighted vest and just walking around.
And like I said, depending on the person asking the question, it also depends on maybe their current fitness ability or their current activity level. Mm-hmm. So if you're somebody who just started walking as a means to beginning more exercise, throwing on 20 pounds, 15 pounds, 10 pounds even may sound like it's not a whole lot, but you just have to view it as analogous to putting more weight on the bench press, putting more weight on the squat. You're just making you have a means to making the activity more intense. So even though it's just a few pounds on your body weight, it is additional loading that, just depending on who you are, you might be a little bit unprepared for. So again, I'm hesitant in somebody very baseline to say that, just get a weight vest. It'll make it harder because, your 30-minute walks are going to feel too easy. It's like, well, we probably have other means to manipulating some of those variables like intensity, volume for somebody just starting. You simply, you and I work together. You add 5 more minutes to the run or to the walk. You add maybe some more hills, change the terrain, treadmill versus track versus outdoor. Like there are ways to change the environment, change the stimulus that I think in general, and I'm ranting a little bit, but I don't often jump to the weight vest thing. Now, if it's somebody who is biased towards CrossFit style training like I am, and they joined a gym and there's a great community and they're 3 months away from a weighted vest event of some sort, then yeah, that's a much different conversation. But again, it's just context is everything. You would expose that person to a ruck or a weight vest little by little, just like you would expose them to push-ups and pull-ups and whatever else, depending on what your goal is to eventually, when they find themselves in whatever that event is or that goal performance is, that they've had enough exposures to it that it just doesn't totally shock them.
Sure.
More or less.
Yeah. Okay. In a CrossFit style workout or something like that, are there ways that it's used in a gym other than just walking around or running?
So you can definitely, and it depends too how good how quality the vest is too.
Yeah.
If you're doing pull-ups or you're swinging around or you're doing sit-ups or with the vest and it's not properly situated, it's 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds, like
actively moving around
and can bounce up and hit you in the chin or something. But provided that it's half decent. I mean, push-ups, pull-ups, air squats. I mean, you can do just about anything.
Lunges.
You can do just about anything. It's if you have a weight belt, let's say you're doing pull-ups or something or weighted dips, if you're a little more advanced and you've loaded that up, you can certainly, I would say for the most part, put more weight on a belt. You can easily load that up. Whereas you're not typically going to wear a vest with like 100 pounds on it. So I think just right off the top, you're limited with what you can wear in the vest.
It seems like it's keyed more toward endurance than it is toward the short-term bursty thing. Yes.
And that's, I'm glad you mentioned that. But before I jump to that point, it is, you just basically, you're just making air squats a little more intense. You're just making push-ups a little more intense. You're just making pull-ups a little harder. We do weighted pull-ups all the time. I think it's very useful for people to be able to do a weighted pull-up or weighted push-up, weighted dip. And if it means you have a vest as the means of loading it, then that's great. It is nice. If you're doing a weighted push-up, for example, somebody has to put a weight on your back or you have to like do this very fancy maneuver so it doesn't land on you or fall off when you're doing the exercise. And so, if you have a vest, it's just a really nice way to add and make those movements more intense. But notice the intensity keeps popping up. So for a lot of people, they want to jump right to this.
Yeah.
Well, I foresee that my workouts are just going to be too easy. So I just need a vest and I need to, this walking can't be that bad. So I just need to throw some weight on my back and I'll be good. So I think we just have to be cautious with that. You can certainly move into that in time. I'm just always a little overkill, I think, with the best of intentions to, with somebody just getting started. Why all of this right now? Just build into it. A vest could eventually be a great tool. And the part that you mentioned that I wanted to circle back to is that the vests do pop up in endurance settings. But it is interesting because my opinion is that it's probably not the best way to develop endurance. If somebody's just trying to get better at running or trying to get better cycling, throwing on a weighted vest as the means of increasing intensity to get better at said endurance thing. Do we really, when you think about it logically, do we really think that's the best way? Because again, we have so many other ways to manipulate intensity. Tyler, we're talking about running. We've never talked about weighted vests because we're talking about the volume, the time spent on your feet, the pace of your best mile, the fastest mile, this, 12-minute time trial. Like there are ways to understand and prescribe intensity with the goal of improving your cardiorespiratory fitness without bumping up the intensity using a weighted vest. If you said, hey, you know what? I'm really bored of running now, and I think I need to spice things up, and I want to do Murph next year, then like the heck with it. Just get a weighted vest and we can have some fun with it. And that's a great pivot, I think. Just more or less just highlighting some different strokes for different folks.
Sure.
That's all.
My immediate thought when you were talking about that is, one of the problems with obesity is that it puts so much extra strain on your joints that when you're doing things like walking to help change all of that, you are more prone to injury than when you're not in that category. Wouldn't this, for a lot of that, not that it's a tool and it's useful for situations, but just for general fitness, it seems like this would be unnecessarily opening yourself up to extra strain on joints that is not necessarily a great idea.
Yeah, I think that just speaks to the idea of, just not being prepared all of a sudden to handle that loading. It doesn't seem that much. It doesn't seem like that crazy if you have somebody squatting 135 and,
Right.
there's 135 on my back. What's the difference of, walking around?
If I do lunges with 45 pounds, why can't I walk with 20?
Right. Sure. The disease process of obesity is probably a little more insidious, takes a little more time.
Sure.
But sure, the point remains the same. You throw on a weighted vest and you're not used to that. You're still adding load. You're still adding intensity to movements and to activity that otherwise have been unloaded for 99% of your life. So there's just a level of preparedness in the simplest sense that people don't have jumping into something like this.
So my comparison is terrible, but the point is true.
We'll go with that.
Okay. All right.
But no, you're right. I mean, that's a huge part of, just the more anecdotal aspect of things, individuals who have been on these GLP-1 agonists and such, who they've not needed a joint replacement as quickly, since they were able to more readily lose weight and relieve some of the burden. So it wasn't directly what you were saying, but it's certainly relevant to the discussion.
Fair enough. All right. So you were talking about, you said there was a study from recently about weighted vests. What's that about?
So yes, there was a study that came out. It was published May 11th of this year.
Oh, wow.
And title being, does weighted vest use during weight loss influence long-term weight loss maintenance? A pilot study on older adults living with obesity and osteoarthritis.
Wow, that is shockingly direct and to the point.
Yeah. So some of these titles, you never know what you're going to get. So they weren't just looking at how adding a weight vest to activity would change weight loss during that time.
Yeah.
But also fast forward, because weight regain is such a big issue. A lot of people can knock 5-10 pounds off fairly quickly.
Yeah.
It's the subsequent months of regain and additional weight gain. So they wanted to unpack that a little bit more. Really, it just like at the outset, it was a really small study. I mean, we're talking only 37 people total, and not maybe a whole, you can't really garner as much from this as you would hope, but it certainly brings about some interesting discussion points.
Yeah. So how long was the study? I mean, because if regain was one of the questions, I imagine it had to go more than a couple of months.
Yeah. So the initial intervention, they looked at the change in weight after 6 months.
Okay.
So both groups after 6 months, again, this was 2 groups.
Mm-hmm.
One did only caloric restriction, and they had a specific diet that they followed, like Medifast, I believe.
Okay.
Very low calorie. And then also caloric restriction plus weighted vest. Now, the key thing here was they were required to wear the vest 10 hours a day.
Oh my.
So now it's important to clarify, we're not talking about, did I wear a weighted vest for Murph, or did I wear a vest for this little bit of exercise I did? But this is a different sort of fitting vest that they're wearing. This is not a ruck. It's a vest that is specific to be able to wear at work and not be in the way.
Underneath clothes or something.
Underneath clothing. Exactly. So there are, not necessarily a drawback, but again, just two different sort of situations. There's not really I think a strong way that we can extrapolate this to somebody who says, for 2 hours a week total, I'm going to have a 20-pound weight vest on.
Right.
It's just not the same thing.
Okay.
So, again, they wore their vest upwards of 10 hours a day. And then after this 6-month period, both groups lost weight. The vest group lost a little bit more, on average 11.2 kilograms.
Oh, wow.
And the no vest group lost 10.3 kilograms. So you're talking well over 20 pounds for each group.
And that's a 10% difference if I did the math right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, you think about, it's like a kilo difference. That's 2.2 pounds. It's, sometimes when we step on the scale, it's easily see
water weights can
right.
easily swing that.
Now the crux of it was at 24 months, 2
years.
Yes. That's what they were really interested in. At 24 months, the group that wore the weighted vest maintained more weight loss, on average of 4.8 kilograms of weight loss.
Wow.
Versus the non-vest group, who regained all of the weight and on average was actually 0.9 kilograms of added weight.
Oh, that's unfortunate. Okay.
Right. So, and then they also did test resting metabolic rate. The resting rate dropped less in the vest group. So they only saw an average change of about 16 kilocalories per day, whereas the non-vest group saw a much steeper drop, about 240 kilocalories per day. And so that, just to help process that a little bit, whenever people are in more extreme caloric deficits, there's all sorts of compensatory mechanisms at play that we've talked about. One of which is resting metabolic rate ramping down. So it would be great. We would all be losing tons of weight at ease if, as we lost weight, our resting metabolic rate remained high. But because you're losing tissue, you're losing muscle tissue, you're again, these compensatory mechanisms at play, your body's now trying to preserve what you have. And therefore, as reflected in your resting metabolic rate, it's doing something that's almost maladaptive in a way when you think about it.
Yeah.
So,
certainly to modern day living.
To modern day living. Exactly.
So, okay, but you're saying that the vested group, their resting metabolic rate,
it was as if they still had all the weight. It was as if the body was perceiving possibly that they got used to that extra weight that was present. You know what I'm saying?
Did they continue to wear the vest for the 24 months?
No.
Interesting.
Right.
So even after they stopped wearing the vest, their resting metabolic rate didn't adapt as much as if it came off directly. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just not my area of expertise, but this idea of gravitational loading by means of a weighted vest or a ruck that really hasn't been studied in this context tons of times, but there are some theories out there that this is what happens. It plays a large role in terms of why it's so hard for individuals to keep weight off or to lose weight. It's a theory called the gravitostat theory, and it basically just says that the body regulates fat mass in response to mechanical loading. And so we essentially have these sensors, more or less, like in the lower body, that are likely in like some of our bone cells or osteocytes, and they can sense these changes in your total body mass and signal essentially back up to the brain to increase or decrease appetite depending on where you fall to maintain whatever the desired energy balance is.
That's fascinating.
And so it's just fascinating to see that, I don't know, a very small pilot study does reflect some of what's present in that theory.
But all of that is to say, you probably shouldn't try wearing a typical commercially available weighted vest 10 hours a day. Yeah. At the very least, it's going to mess with your clothes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's fascinating, it's cumbersome.
Yeah.
It just doesn't sound real. It doesn't really sound like a whole lot of fun.
But
to
it
have
is
to do.
interesting to see how the body is responding to these different stimuli and how we can manipulate things now, try and
Yep.
gain a little more understanding.
Yep. But of course, you maybe not, but you might see people saying, "Well, see, this is why I have a ruck.
Yeah.
It's why I wear my weighted vest, because I can lose. I can
10 hours a day?
much different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think it all goes back to, like you said at the beginning, like context behind why someone would want to
it does.
get a weighted vest.
It does. You're 100% right. There were some little tidbits I think that we missed along the way that maybe we can just grab quickly. They actually used this 10-hour wearing vested time as a replacement to traditional exercise. So it didn't appear that the individuals were doing any sort of other exercise in this 6-month period, at least in the
not prescribed necessarily.
Yes, so you have to assume that they weren't. I mean, if I was wearing a 10-hour a day and a 25-pound vest, then I'd probably skip it too.
No, I wouldn't feel much like moving at the end.
And I say 25 pounds, but directly from the study, this is how they kind of determined how much to load each person, and then also the goal for each person. But again, they wore the vest for up to 10 hours a day during the most active part of their day, with a goal of at least 50% of awake time wearing the vest. The vest was increased weekly by study staff with a goal of replacing all lost weight up to a maximum of 15% of the participants' baseline weight.
Okay,
so they weren't just wearing like 5 pounds.
It wasn't a random thing. It was literally set to replace the weight that they lost. So they're literally trying to trick the body into thinking that it's still the same size that it was.
Yeah. And you figure, hey, if you're up on your feet for 10 hours, if it's on for 10 hours, you're standing for most of that time. You're trying to cross the wires intentionally if there really is some feedback mechanism going on.
And it seems like that kind of worked.
It certainly was a novel finding, I would say. So I don't.
What were the occupations? 10 hours of the most active part of your day. I mean, if you sit at a desk, if you have a desk job, or like you're a waitress.
Yeah. There's,
you know what I mean?
Some
like
radically different.
Yeah.
But
I'm curious.
But at least it's consistent per individual. Theoretically, you didn't have somebody go from being a desk worker to a waiter or waitress. Like it consistent for the individual, but still.
Mm-hmm.
So what did the researchers say that the punchline, what did they take away from this?
Yeah. So they just felt that these results suggested that among older adults who wore a weighted vest during caloric restriction, initial weight loss was better preserved at 24 months again, which may be due to this preserved resting metabolic rate. And they suggest that future work should aim to confirm these findings in an adequately powered study. So
more studies are needed.
Yeah, I don't know why was the resting metabolic rate preserved? And again, is it simply due to the theory that we mentioned? Is there something else at play? Was there lean? Was the change in lean tissue between groups what changed it? What if they lifted also in addition to this? What would that have done to resting metabolic rate? There are definitely some interesting things here. I don't know, fascinating nonetheless.
Very cool.
This last part has nothing to do with whether or not I would recommend a weighted vest.
No, but
for somebody,
you wouldn't recommend it for this situation specifically, though it does seem to have worked. In general, weighted vest, yeah or nah?
If you have a few extra bucks, then yeah, because you definitely don't want to be wearing somebody else's because
they smell.
They can really they can accumulate some sweat and some odor. So
I guess maybe the way to think of it, the question is kind of like saying dumbbells, yeah or no?
Exactly.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
Are you going to use them for the thing that they're intended for?
Exactly. Yeah, I know when I got my weighted vest, I did Murph, and then I didn't touch it again until a few weeks before doing Murph, and then I did Murph, and then the same thing happened again. And so if that's the frequency at which you're going to use it, then maybe your money's better spent elsewhere. But
yeah, get a trainer.
Yeah, but they are fun. And it's also like you have this weighted vest on for an extended period and you do a quick workout and then you take it off and everything, you just feel so light on your feet.
That's
you know,
true.
it's like the swinging a weighted bat, which even that doesn't even, I saw somewhere that if you swing a weighted bat and then you take the weight off and you swing the bat without the weight, that your swing is slower, even though it feels faster.
Huh.
So maybe that's
Fascinating.
why my career didn't last super long.